make sure you guys can hear me. Looks like you can. And let's make sure that you guys can see the stream here. Looks like you can. Go ahead and transition over to this. So, what are we working on here today? We've got a bunch of labs, a bunch of different things that we could kind of work on. Let's see what we're working on here today. Transition this over. Check on Ranger while we're waiting for people to show up. There's Ranger. Just crashed out downstairs. It is starting to warm up in Phoenix. It's 83 right now outside, so that's pretty wild. That's a lot of Fahrenheit. And then what we're doing here is we're kind of looking at my stats for Killer Coda, and my goal again is to keep people coming and doing the labs. They're all free. You know, we don't charge anything for the labs. Killer Coda doesn't really charge you anything for the labs, but I kind of thought this was fun as I was looking at the daily scenario starts on the 19th. That was when I was working with the high school students. So there was a whole bunch of them as the students were going in all the labs and stuff. So I thought that was kind of fun. And that's where we're at. Yeah, so we're going to maybe build some new labs today, see what's kind of going on. And these are the ones we currently have. And I do kind of want to round out and fill out some more. And the 0-1 numbering is kind of just looking around the system. The 100 level are kind of all of the setup of different things. And then the 200 level are strictly security focused, in case you guys had never seen that. And then Killer Coda, after I started building labs for them, they started doing this structure.json where you can actually order these in any order you want. So I've just been leaving them kind of in the order that they're in now. But it actually doesn't really matter what the numbering is on them. I mean, it'll matter a little bit for the folder you're in, but it won't matter for any of that other stuff. So we'll do some stuff. I had some stuff written up that I kind of wanted to show people, and things that we could check out, and different tools that were available, I guess, for people to look at things. So let's think about how we want to do this. Yeah, this will be fun. We'll go and we'll do Chrome OS. Enzo Bear's here, Links Developers here, Cano's here. Hey guys, over on the YouTube side, I don't see anybody yet, but I know people are lurking, so that's all good. Let's do something fun. We'll do one that's kind of like a setup, but it's also a little bit of, maybe this one will be kind of a fun way to do something. We're gonna grab the NFS one, right? So we're gonna copy this over here, and we're just using, you could use any tool you want for Git. I just have this to be able to use Git as kind of a fun little it's just another way to get in there. One of my buddies was telling me a while back, he does a lot of coding and stuff, and he's like, yeah, I know a fair amount of people that use VS Code, and I'm like, all right, I'll play with VS Code a little bit. So that's when I started using that a while back, but obviously we can do this in any editor that we want. We're going to be down in the systems world here anyways, so it doesn't really matter how we get to the systems world. You just got to kind of do whatever's comfortable for you. So I'm going to change this. Hold on, I got to change this music a little bit, because I try to get music that doesn't have any talking in it. So give me a second. There's like a little bit more, like a little more talking in this song than I like. Hold on. Yeah, and the wife's not going to be home for a few hours, so I told her I'd hop on now and just do it so that her and I can hang out later. I don't know if any of you guys are watching Solo Leveling. This week one was pretty good. I'm not going to give any spoilers. Ask you guys not to as well, but it was pretty solid. If any of you guys are fans of anime or any of that kind of stuff, Solo Leveling's doing a pretty good job. So I actually had made it a point not to read ahead. Um, yeah, I had made it a point not to read ahead, but the anime of the show is pretty good. Yeah, I could have read ahead. Yeah, yeah. My brother sent us over the link the other day, and I could have read ahead on everything. And I was like, I'll just do it. I'll just do this thing normal. But it's coming along pretty well. Um, there's a translated novel. Yeah, my understanding is it was many chapters. I want to say it was something like 88 chapters or something, from what I was told originally. Let's check on Ranger. Ranger's up and about. What's he doing? He's sniffing the air. He's old. He's yawning. Hard life of a guard dog. What's he doing? Gonna move to his other bed. We're creeping on Ranger real quick before we start here. Oh, it's like getting up on a throne. Oh, old Ranger. So old. No, you made it. You almost made it. There you go. All right. This freaking dog. All right. Ranger's doing good. All right, so let's do. We copied that NFS share, right? We copied the NFS share. Yeah, I think it's a very good story. I think it's been fun so far. I'm a big fan of certain types of stories in anime, and they do a pretty good job in that one. All right, so let's go over here. Let's if you guys have never seen how to become a creator on Killer Coda, any of you can do it. Any of you guys that are doing anything interesting, you just come up here and I think you just click the creator button, or if not, it's down here where it says how to become a creator, right, or how to contribute. I think it's creators right here, and it tells you how to do it. It's pretty straightforward. Here's the different environments that you can call, and one of the most important things if you do decide to get into building any of these labs is all of these environments. You don't have to memorize a lot of this stuff. You could just go steal it. You could just go steal it out of my GitHub. You can go steal it out of, they've got examples here of GitHub repositories that show you how to call a lab. So like in my labs, let's say this NFS lab that we're about to steal from ourselves, down here under the index.json that kind of defines the definition of the lab, here is the image right here. So my image ID is going to be Kubernetes kube ADM 2 nodes. Kubernetes kube ADM 2 nodes. And the reason I do that is because in this NFS lab, I need to have both a client and a server node, right? So we set up the NFS share and then we connect to it. And we're going to do that in this new lab. But after we do that in this new lab, we're going to, we're just going to set up the, as soon as it's done, we'll just set up the actual stuff we want to do, which is investigating lsof and kind of disk mount points, right? Like that's kind of what we're going to mess around with a little bit here to see what is holding the system open, right? So, or what's doing the thing that we want to look at. So that's what we're going to do. And let's get to it. So, all right, so let's write this new little lab that we're going to do. Where are we going to start here? So we've got this configure NFS share. We're going to copy it, and we're going to move it down. It will be maybe we'll do 400 will be troubleshooting. So maybe we'll call like our 400 labs troubleshooting. Yeah, that might be kind of fun. All right, so we're gonna paste it, right? Oops, didn't want to do that. Yep. I want to paste it in here. My bad. Paste. All right, and we're gonna change this to rename 400, and we're gonna call it troubleshoot with we want dashes, yeah. Troubleshoot with lsof, right? So then we'll come down in here and we're going to have to muck around and change all of the components of this for our lab. Also, one other thing we're going to have to do, we're going to have to grab this name. So I'm going to Control C and just not change that name any. And then I'll come to the structure here and I'm going to add it. I'm going to put a comma here. And then I'm going to do the same exact values again, path. Right, this is simple JSON. And I'm going to hit Control V to paste that in. And then I'm going to close that out like that. Now on the last one, you don't need a comma, right? That's something to always remember here. But now I'm going to hit Control S and save it. And then now I'm going to have, I have a bunch of things in source control that are not committed yet up to my system. Yeah, Jujutsu Kaisen is kind of fun. I couldn't get into it as much as many of my friends could. I can't quantify why I didn't like that as much, but I just didn't. Also, hold on a second. Because we're just here hanging out, we could turn off that and turn on the camera. We could be on. I'd be on camera today. I was just I had the little cold aisle thing up because I thought that was kind of funny. But you know, we're just kind of hanging out here. So we got no assets for this one. Let's go into our index and let's change the name a little bit. This says let's do Linux configurations. Let's call this let's do Linux troubleshooting. Right. And then the name of this one, let's go find how these are. Let's go look at the layout a little bit because I want to see what's already there. This will be the description. So let's do Linux configuration, and then this was the NFS sharing. So this one will be lsof troubleshooting, lsof. Right? Or use. Let's just call it lsof troubleshooting. That's fine for now. That's fine. The first one will be set up, and we're still going to do these two parts, but we're probably going to strip them down a little bit. Enzo Bear, you're biting your nails on waiting on the decision for the job I applied to. Nice. Have you heard, Enzo Bear? Is it internal or is it external? Like, how's that going? I guess. That's curious to me. Oh yeah, Kano. My problem with Jujutsu Kaisen, I actually love it. I actually do love when they have an overpowered character who has an overpowered ability. And I like the way that they described his overpowered ability. I was explaining it to the wife, and I'm like, when you go to punch him, you basically touch him, and then there's an infinite vastness between you and him, so you can't ever hit him. So I thought that was kind of cool. But Enzo Berry, oh, you're going external. Okay. Moving from help desk to a data center. Yeah, data center work. We've talked about this. Like, data center work, there's a lot of... One, it's kind of good because it'll keep you moving, right? You won't be as sedentary as, like, a help desk or an engineering type job, but you'll get to touch all the pieces as well. Yeah, racking and installing the hardware, there's a lot of good troubleshooting there. There's a lot of good safety stuff you're going to learn in the data center. I know people who have went far up in their career, guys, doing data center, and then they get into like managing the data center and like working with teams like as they deploy things. And there's a good whole career path there for people in tech, right? You don't just have to be command line Linux, kind of like the stuff that I do all day, and the stuff that I try to build these labs to show you guys and stuff. So yeah, that's actually really cool. So yeah, network. I mean, networks are good to know for sure. All right, so let's go do our steps. We're still going to set up an NFS share, and we're going to still set up the client, but we're not going to do as much like explanation because this is going to kind of come later. So we'll do those two, and then we're going to take like step 2 here, and we can just copy it and make another step. So we're going to paste it, and we'll call it like step 3. Step 3. And then step 3 is going to be when we go to grab it. I just like to grab something like this. Boom, right here. Put a comma on the end of this. Boom. Take that comma off there. And this one will be the practice or use lsof to better understand the system. Right? And then we're going to this will be step 3 and step 3. So that's how that's going to look in the system. We're still going to want the Kubernetes 2 nodes. We're still going to want all this stuff. So we'll hit Control S here, and that'll save. And then we'll have this. We've got the structure .json updated. We've got this. Okay, now we got to go start building our lab. So some of you guys have been around and you've seen how these labs work in Killer Code. It's super easy. It's free, right? Like I could link this lab to you guys and you guys could do the lab right now. It doesn't cost you nothing. You just drop in there and start working through this original lab here, right? And it says team has determined they need an NFS share to facilitate system access across multiple servers from one central location, right? And then it says to deploy it and share it out and all that kind of stuff. And actually, I'm a little torn on this because I kind of, to get us to lsof, I could do this faster. I have an Ansible playbook that'll just deploy it. So I'm kind of thinking maybe that's the better way to go with the lab than going through, you know, like building it out, the full thing. We could just build it in the background. Yeah, Hayes Anderson. So the book is on, and anybody that ever does pick up the book, here's all the Linux labs. These are the Linux labs from the book. And then all the Ansible labs also are the ones that are in the book right here. So basically everything in there is what the book comprises of. If we ever update the book, if there's ever a new version, anybody that's ever bought the book gets the book for forever. So that's kind of that's one of the cool things about LeanPub is anytime you update anything, anybody that's bought something always gets it for then on in the future. So that's actually kind of cool. All right, so where am I at here? Hold on. We've got the lab. We're in the lab. Let's go look at what we actually want to go figure out here, which is this and this and this. And we're going to go clean this up so that it kind of flows more like we want. So it's right here. It says your team has determined they need an NFS share. That's fine. Let's just say set up a NFS share for your lsof testing. Boom. Right? We're going to do, we don't need to really verify that there's no package anymore. We can just deploy the NFS server right there. That's fine. We can do that. We don't need really any of this because we're not doing this. The lab before is going to handle this. This is a new lab that's just trying to get us quickly to a working system. So add that line. After this, we'll need to restart the service and then exit back to control plane. All right, so that part's good. So we'll save that. And then we're going to go to step 2. And step 2 says, so far you set up an NFS server and share. Now we have to connect to it from control plane. Yeah, control plane. Yep, that's it. All right, so it'll tell us all to do that. Test the mount point to verify we can connect. All right, we don't need to do any of this other stuff. Removing it, putting it in that CFS tab. I'm actually not in any way worried about you guys doing any of that stuff for this. You can just mount it and then test, right? And down here on our verify now, we don't actually have to check for final check. We can just look for, we'll just say test 1, that's fine. So if test 1 is there, we can complete this part of the lab and move forward. Boom, okay, good. So now the third step here, so that step should be done. That should all be good. All right, so now we're going to do step 3 of the lab, and we're going to rewrite all this and say use lsof to examine the file system, file systems on your Linux server. If something doesn't work, troubleshoot the situation to see if you can resolve it. All right, so we're going to troubleshoot a little bit and then see if we can kind of figure all this stuff out. Well, we're going to use lsof in general to kind of see what's going on the system, and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to do this lab up until basically the point that we have it. over here. We're just going to install the server on the one side. Make sure that it's all running like it needs to. We're just going to blow through all this real quick. And then we're going to do our commands over here, and then we'll go check them over here kind of as we go. So hold on a second here. Takes a little bit to install. It's not long, right? Boom. Show, mount, and all that kind of stuff. There's nothing exported yet. We see the NFS server is running, and we see that it's listening on 2049 like it should. All right, we've got a firewall, but the firewall is not doing anything. We'll make a share. We'll go in Etsy exports and hit Shift G, O, and we're going to add the line /share to anyone, read, write, sync, and no subtree check. There's a whole bunch of things that you can add or remove. There's a whole bunch of defaults that'll be taken if you don't make any changes. I just happen to use ones that they already had up there. You will find in your organization, and depending on the flow of data, that sometimes those need to be different. Sometimes for security reasons they need to be different. If you want certain things to be shared out, a very common use of NFS would be my production nodes have read write because they're production, and then like in my QA test and dev systems that go back and are being tested with, they can only read data in. Teams can read data out of maybe certain production locations and stuff, but they can't go making changes to it. And that's kind of a thing that'll, sometimes be a use case. Common use case, I guess, if you want to think of it like that. We're going to restart the NFS, and then we're going to show that we are sharing that out. Good. We should be able to go there. I was supposed to hit exit to go back to my node, and then on my node, I'm going to just install NFS, and I'm going to go through this to make sure that I can mount it, right? So now we got the NFS client, and then we're going to make the show mount work. Now, for people that are doing these labs and you don't know Linux very well, I would highly advise typing these out, because there is a certain amount of like muscle memory to just typing things out and getting your fingers on the keyboard. But when you're doing the labs for understanding, and maybe you're like, all right, I do Linux all day, but I've never set up NFS, you might just hit the buttons and watch what's happening. But there is a certain amount of kind of just some kind of value, I think, to kind of seeing what's going on with the system. Okay, so we've got that. It's mounted. We need to do this one last thing, which is this final check to be able to move forward. But now we've got all the pieces we need to build this other part of this lab over here, right? So this lab is going to be use the lsof command to verify. So it already says use lsof. Okay, so use lsof command. Gosh, use lsof. Let's start with checking. To check, I got notes over here too. Here's what we could do. Let's say to understand processes using a folder or a directory, right? So right here, we would use something like lsof, and then we would say like mnt, right? So in this case, lsof/mnt, right? And as it is, there's nothing in there, right? So what we might want to say is move to the /mount directory, right? And that's going to be this command here. Super simple to do. cd/mnt. And if we do that same lsof command, now we're going to see that there's some processes in there. So we might even say, use the lsof to check processes using a directory. Whoops. And then we might say, so do that. And then we might say, what is different now that you're in directory, right? So now that you're in the directory, what's different, right? Well, there's a whole bunch of processes that are in that directory, And if I were to say, it's different, test the mount point to verify we can connect. We don't need to do that because we did that earlier. So I might say, check the process ID of your shell. And does everybody know how to do that? Right? So any process, anything inside of Linux that's doing anything, if you call inside a bash shell for sure, $, it'll tell you what the process ID is that's running. So the process ID of my bash shell right now is 37192. Is that, do you see your process ID in the /mount directory? Now, try to unmount or umount the /mnt directory. Right? What do you guys think is going to happen right there? Did it work? What is why or why not? What is the system saying? Right, like what's the system saying when I say umount /mnt? What's it telling me? It says I can't unmount it because the system's busy. Right? So we can unmount it. So there's two ways. So it is technically an unmount, but the command is umount, right? So try to unmount the MNT directory, and we do a umount. Did it work? No. And I say there are two ways to umount this directory now. We can force it with a lazy unmount. It is an unmount, but the command is umount. So all right, anyway, so this is how you would do it in a lazy way. Umount -L MNT. Now on older systems, like older Unix systems, it was a umount -F, and that would force. Now it's considered a lazy unmount. You can do this while you're in the directory. So this will yield some weird results. So umount -L MNT will unmount it. But you might see some weird stuff like that. So now you might want to CD like back into mount or something. And then if you do like a df-h, now you're in the file system that is attached to dev-vda. You're going to get weird behaviors if you do a umount -L most of the time. So will your users, and this is one of the things that I warn admins about, sometimes the thing that you think is like a nice clean cut isn't really a nice clean cut for the system. Like other users that are touching that or accessing it and you unmount it, you're going to get weird behaviors. So, and when I say weird, I mean it's like you can't quantify them. Like they're not, it's not what is like there's not some set, it dies right here and everybody gets kicked out of their program or something. You're going to get systems start throwing weird errors, like errors might be can't write out to log files, can't write out to, there's just going to be weird things that happen. So umount -L is one of those last resorts. And almost universally, I'm going to tell you, if you are forced to use a umount -L in a production system, I can almost guarantee you're going to have to reboot that system to get that mount point back. Now, you might say, well, do I have to reboot the system right then? No. If it's like a Friday and it's production, and this is a system that can wait until after the rush or something, and then you can reboot it, maybe you wait until like there's a better change window. You don't always have to do things right then as a systems admin, a systems engineer. If this was a system that I was building and testing, maybe I had a couple of devs on and they were showing me how their stuff works, and then I was having to like try to strip this mount point off, and then we were trying to restart the service, it's very possible that I'm going to have to reboot this box after we get done mucking with it. But that's in my own environment, so I can do whatever I want there, right? Especially if I'm working directly with the team. So umount -L, try to did this work? Now try to use pwd to see the directory you're in, right? This is going to give us something weird. pwd, right? Is this... What error do you see? Can you fix it? And how you fix it is just doing a cd back into mount, rerun. We could just do that and then do pwd. That'll be fine. Did the error go away? Is the file system properly unmounted from the other node? Yes, and yes, in this case it is, and it is now properly unmounted from the other node, right? And that's kind of an important thing to kind of check or know that that's the behavior of a thing. Then other things that we can troubleshoot, right? So let's say that we're on here and right here, then we might say, this will end up being kind of a long lab. I wonder if there's a way to... That's how we do that. So that's how we make like kind of a header and markdown right there. I wonder if I want to... I'm going to change this to exercise, because this is not really, or practice, this isn't really a solution in this lab. I'm just walking you through it, right? Down to here, did the error go away? Okay. Can you use lsof to examine how a process is, or examine what files a process is using, right? So this one might be something like how do we want to do this? Let's say, let's see, is that one? That one should be pretty good. So we'll look for SSHD as we know it's running on the system, right? So we know SSHD is running, so we'll say tsef grep-i for SSHD, and then capture the PID ID, so capture process ID PID of the system, or of the SSHD daemon, right? And let's see. Let's do it this way. I'm going to take the I off of here, and I'm going to put a square bracket here and a square bracket here, right? And I'm going to show you guys what that does if you've never seen it. This will cause this to be a regex expression, and it'll only find the one right answer. And then, for fun, we'll put an awk to print $2, and that'll give us just the value, and then we'll feed that over as let's say we'll just call that SSHD. We can do that, equals, and then we'll go to that. All right, because then that'll just make it easier. So echo, right? Then that'll have the value in it or whatever. Yeah, I can awk okay. I can do. All right. So right here it would be like that, and then that'll be in the same command. Oh, one line. Don't be on your own line, buddy. All right, there we go. All right. Capture process ID of the SSHD daemon with the all right. Then down here, we can do an lsof against that process of SSHD PID, right? And guys, one of the reasons I avoid doing a lot of wildcards or variables like this is because I don't want to, I would like people to understand what they're doing. And sometimes when people see the commands, they start to just glaze over. But this is one of the highest like numbered labs, so hopefully it's not that difficult for people to track. So lsof-p $SSHD PID, right, like that, and then that will show. Why did I do it capital P? Should be lowercase p. And then now we can see all of the ports that are all of the things that SSHD is looking at. And then what we might say then is, so check what files and important, it's files and file handles that the process for SSHD has open, right? So that's the next thing that we did there. And then what I would ask you here, if you were looking at this and you were familiar with this a little more, I might say, what are the types of FD values that you see? And then I might say, what are the common names of files you see? So like when you're looking at a process, right, you could kind of value and figure out these other things. Perl instead of awk instead is just because I use Perl so much. Yeah, Hayes, I came from Perl too. I have a lot of stuff that I've written in Perl over the years for sure. And I got into just using awk because a lot of my team was bash, based. And I think it works fine for most things, When I need more complex stuff, I do tend to still go back to Perl. Yeah. I have Perl notes all over the place. But I don't. I tell you guys sometimes, like probably in 2016. Yeah, it was 2016 when I went over to be the team lead at AAA, and that was just the Linux team lead at the time before I became the platform lead later. And it was me and one other guy, Jason, and we were the two that could do Perl because we were kind of like the older admins, and then all the newer admins were doing basically just bash. So he and we stopped doing any Perl. We kind of agreed, we won't write any more of these system scripts in Perl. We'll do it all in bash. And then probably around 2018, we converted everything over to Ansible. So we just did, and basically everybody new that came to the team, like all the junior, we had like 6 other people on the team besides me and him. I think it was about 8 of us total, yeah. And any new person that came to the team, we would make them do Ansible. So, yeah. And we would move them towards, that. Yeah, we would move them toward, well, just because that's, the things. You'll still catch me sometimes, like with really quick and dirty stuff, you'll still see me do Perl sometimes. If you're seeing me build something in the lab or something. In fact, I have some Perl. If we go to my home lab, which, funny enough, my home lab's dead right now because yesterday, while I was on a call yesterday for about 6 hours working with one of my teammates, and my home lab died. My home internet died, so I had to jump to my secondary internet. And when I'm on my secondary internet, I can't get directly into here, except from home. Well, except remote. So hold on. See if I can get in here. All right, we're back. That's weird. There we go. All right. That's still a little busted. Let's see. Hold on. Yeah. Sometimes it just needs a little resize. All right. So what I was going to show you guys is go to this box. SSH to Nagios, which I'm pretty sure is still there. What's that Spring stuff? What's my log4j stuff? I don't even know what I was writing there. Oh. This isn't mine, actually. This is actually something I helped fix for Qualys. This is a Qualys tool. And then we were scanning when log4j first came out. This was like a quick patch. But that's not what I wanted to show you guys. Where's var lib Nagios? No. Var local Nagios? Where's Nagios live? It lives in a weird spot. I haven't looked at it in a while. Somebody help me out here if you guys remember this. It's been a while since I've looked. Not var run. Not var ww. ls ps. See if my tool can do it. Some of these have been up for a while. All right. Also f-p8. Oh, user local now. There we go. There it is. What I want to show you guys is in here. I thought it was in here. In objects, normally when I build these, I have a script that I use to build these, but I don't know where. If it's not in root, I don't know where I did it. Yeah, I don't know where I would have put it. But I did all my Nagios stuff in Perl because it was from years ago. Oh, I have Qualys on this box because I was using this as my test box. What's in this deploy stamp? I guess not in the test. I mean, that was when I first built him. I don't see my stuff in here. I don't see it. Guys, if I didn't do it in root, I don't know where I did it. Anyways, I had some Perl I was going to show you guys that I've written, but if it's not here, I don't know where the hell it is. Anyways, this is the problem with having a lab that I don't ever document anything. I don't know where everything is. All right, that doesn't matter that much. That doesn't matter. We're over here building labs out. So we did this, and we said, what are the values here? And you've got directories and regular files that are open, and then you've got over here, you've got these actual file handles, right? And those are being held open for streams and sockets, right? In this case, TCP is being held open. So we can actually look at that from a perspective of this SSHD is listening on SSH, and we know that that SSH right there is in, we know that that SSH is port 22, and we know that because if we were to grep SSH from Etsy services, we would see that SSH is port 22. So whenever you see that over here, that's what that port is. So if I did an lsof-I on 22, I would see that same information that's coming up from lsof. This is tremendously useful if you have a box that you think is compromised and you see it doing connections and listening to things that you don't think it should. lsof-I against the port will tell you what the process ID that started it, and then you can go use that to dig in on the system. So we're going to come down here, and then we're going to say find at the bottom you see that SSHD is listening on port or on SSH. Find the port number for SSH, and then use that to check with. We'll find the port number for SSH. That's fine. That's all we got to do here, and that is that command that we just did right there, which was grep SSH from etc services, right? What is the port number for SSH? Now, you might think that that's kind of silly, but some people have never done this before. So some people don't know that SSH and port 22 are always going to kind of go together. You know, they're not super familiar with that. So, Robodom, hey, how's it going? Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. We're just hanging out. Also, thanks for setting stuff over on the YouTube side of things. It's kind of cool. If you guys don't know, Robodom is one of my mods. Also, next month, you guys are all out in, well, not everybody, but people that want to go, down in San Diego area, I believe, is the Scale Expo. Is it Robodom, is it up in Los Angeles or is it down in San Diego? I thought Scale was down in San Diego. Imitaz said, is there any video how we can set up same lab connection to Killer Coda or any documentation? Yeah. So that's actually how I started out here. I was showing you guys in Killer Coda, you can actually just go, if you've never been on Killer Coda, guys, and if you want to become like a creator, all the information's right here. Well, these are my creator profiles. Sorry, it's down here under creators. It'll show you how to get started. And there are some YouTube videos that kind of show it, but I also just kind of show it every now and then if people have questions or want to do any of that kind of stuff. Hey, how's it going, Rossberger? I was in there hanging out and saw you on there earlier. Yeah, you got a raid coming in. Okay, all right. Well, so any of you guys that don't know me or any of you guys that follow Rossberger know that he's the second toughest guy on Twitch, and I'm the toughest. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm a Linux engineer. I'm a sysadmin. I've been a college professor for 16 years now, so I've been doing that a long time. And I teach people how to do this stuff. What you guys just came in on that you're probably very confused about is I'm over here building a lab in Killer Coda, which is a free site that anybody can use to learn Linux. And we can check on my dog Ranger. Ranger's down there. He's kind of hanging out. But what I normally do here is just kind of hang out and work on Linux, right? I run a professional Linux users group that has almost 3,600 people in there. So people are welcome to hang out down there. And we're a pretty chill group. Our stated goal is to take you from being a hobbyist and help you become a professional in this space. That's what I do. So, yeah, I actually watched Ross most of last week. I was hanging out in there when he was doing all of the dark pictures. I hang out in Ross's stream quite a bit while I'm doing other stuff for work, but mostly what I do is I'm a high-performance compute engineer doing Linux systems for governments, and mostly the U.S. government, and then also a lot of colleges. I run systems that are up to, the biggest system I've ever personally worked on, I want to say is about 16,000 compute nodes, 16,000 individual systems. In the home lab here, for people that haven't been around, in the home lab we have a little thing that shows our environment. People have drawn all over this, and this is kind of my home lab. You get into the home lab, people in Prolog know how to get in there, and then I have, I don't know, it's 25 plus 19, I don't know, 44 servers or so that people can access and do our different Linux courses and those kind of things as well. So yeah, that's kind of things that we do around here, and I teach people how to do this. I show them how to do it. I show them how to do networking and security, and I show the tedium of security. I don't just show the cool stuff about security. Like, the cool stuff about security is like, oh, everybody's like, hacker man, I'm in. I got my hoodie on and I turn my lights off in here so I look cool. But there's also like this tedium to it as well, and I can show you some of that. Like, I could pull this up and say, all right, now we're going to look at RHEL 8, which is Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and we're going to go through 367 secure technical implementation guidelines for that server. And most of you would be like, oh God, I just want to die. I don't want to do this anymore. And that's how a lot of people feel. Like, when you get into security, everybody thinks it's cool, but there's actually a lot of compliance stuff. It's actually kind of boring for a lot of people. So yeah, sorry about that ad stuff. You guys know that just pops up on Twitch and that kind of stuff. So I am not nearly as exciting as Rossberger. Also, you don't get to see me fall out of my chair. You don't get to see all the cool emotes and all that kind of stuff either. But I do appreciate Ross. I do hang out in his stream quite a bit. He's got a lot of fun stuff going on. So for people that are on the YouTube side, they're like, what the hell's going on? On the Twitch side of things, there's this thing called a raid, and Rossberger just kind of raided us. So now we got to kind of tell him a little bit about what we're doing. So what we were doing, again, checking on my Ranger dog. He's doing good. And then we were looking in Killer Coda for how people could build this stuff if they wanted to. If you said, hey, that's really interesting, but I know a lot of Linux, you can actually go build Linux out for other people, and you could show them how, right here, to do some tool that you know how to do. And it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't cost them anything. And that's kind of one of my favorite things. So anyways, we're over here, and then on the left side, we're building out the lab that kind of talks to this environment so that then people could go down and do the lab. So that's what we're doing. We also have, Enzo Bear, we have the gold jacket. There were a few of us that were working on all 12 of the AWS certs back in the day. I got 5 of them. I think Fisherman's up to 7 now. So Fisherman's got, I think, 7, but he also works directly with AWS, so he works, for them. So there's that, and then I don't work directly for AWS, but I do work in that space a lot. One of our guys was getting ready to go take that test too, so I don't know what's going on there. Hayes, you said you had to take a 1-hour training for security. I have to take so much training through my college. I would have never thought that I could sit through. I probably sit through, if I had to guess, about 50 hours a year of training from my college. FERPA, which is the Family Something Rights and Privacy Act, and then I think it's Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, and then all the just all the domain stuff with Kevin Mitnick, and he passed away recently, but he was a really kind of well thought of kind of a security hacker and that kind of stuff. I just retired, so it's okay. Nice. But every time security stuff comes around, Hayes, I just want to I want to be like, any of you guys remember Wayne's World 2? Most of you probably don't remember Wayne. You probably know about Wayne's World and Garth and Wayne, but you probably don't remember Wayne's World 2, where his girlfriend starts to become really, really popular, and they get these backstage passes. So anyways, when they're walking around backstage, they're going like this. They've got their passes, and they're like VIP, and they're like showing it to everybody. And I turned that into a meme a while back, where I want that to be what happens when you ask me to do a security cert or a security certification for a company. I just want to hold my CISSP up and be like, I don't have to do your bullshit. I went and got the CISSP, so I don't have to do this bullshit anymore. All right. Anyways, we'll get back to it. Phishing is that is funny. My college does the dumbest stuff with phishing. I can't even stand it, what they do with phishing. They love sending out phishing emails, and then if you go and you click on the little phishing button, I've actually had this happen to me before. I've clicked on that's bullshit phishing, because it came from my boss, right? It came from my boss's email, and I'm like, I'm not clicking on that in any way. And I went up to our little fish button, which is outside of the email scope. And then they told me, oh, no, you actually clicked on the email and you tried to send it back to them or something. And I'm like, I did no such thing. I clicked on that. I sent it to phishing. And then in a separate email, I told them, hey, you're sending out really weird emails. I hope you're not compromised, right? That's what I sent him on a separate email. And then I got dinged with this thing like, oh, you got to go to remedial training. And I was like, I told the wife, I was like this close to just hitting the button and quitting the college, because I'm like, I'm not having you guys tell me I just did a thing that I did not do, which is click in a phishing email. Yeah, Enzo Bear, that's the thing too, is like people do the dumbest shit, man. They'll go buy gift cards. Like, what does your boss, who makes more than you probably, need with a whole bunch of Amazon gift cards? Like, that doesn't make any sense. It's the dumbest thing. Yeah, I don't trust anything. I don't trust. Yeah, I don't trust anything. Which is one of the reasons I love Linux so much is I can open whatever I want up in Linux. All right. So where we were at, we were writing this lab, and then we were basically stealing from one of our other labs. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this lab up with a commit to Git, and then what will happen is this system will pull it over. Excuse me. This system will pull it over, and then we'll go in and we'll test the new lab out for anybody that wants to do the lab with me. So that's where we're at right now. That's what you guys rated into. Not the most fun stuff, but it is educational, and it does show people how to do systems work, right? Because systems work is valuable work. Also, give me 1 second real quick. Excuse me. 1 second. I need to grab some water. 1 second. But in the big scheme of things, I definitely have less cool alerts than Ross does. All right, I'm back. So let's keep working on this. I'm going to clear this screen over here. And what we did, we got down into grep etc services. Grep. So grep is a search function, right? SSH from etc services. And we would find that it's port 22. I'll make that a little bigger for you guys. So we see that it's port 22. But we knew that, but some people might not have. So then we come down here and we say, what's the port number for SSH? You got to know that. And then we would say check using lsof for the processes that are holding open port 22 on your system. Right? So when we come down here, we grab another one of these. And we say the command for that is lsof-i port 22. So lsof-i:22 will show us that the SSHD, which is the secure shell daemon, is what's holding open port 22 TCP listening on my system. And it's in IPv4 and IPv6. No, this is much more, this isn't programming, this is more like systems engineering. This is more like what I do is I set up the systems and I keep all the systems working so that people can program on top of it. I would do what you would call very much more, I dabble. I go up to the programming a little bit and I do things that are called scripting. And my scripting tends to be in like Python or Bash or Ansible, typically, right? And Ansible's loosely scripting, not really. It's more declarative statements. But what I do is I keep all the systems active and healthy so that people up in the programming world can have working systems. That's what I do as an engineer. That's what my type of engineering is. That's what I show people. We have a Discord, and in the Discord, you know, for people that are around, you guys are in the Discord anyways, but for people that are newer and looking to hang out in the Discord and talk shop with people, in here we have all kinds of stuff with like a systems administration course, and I just ran through it. I want to say like September, October, November, and December of last year, this whole course, and then I'm getting ready to push it again in March. So for everybody that wants to come, 16-week free course on systems administration. And it's like, it's a career path for people. It's kind of the start of getting into systems engineering and that kind of stuff. Everybody's got to start somewhere. I tell people all the time, college is probably the best way to get into this, but if you're not going to do college, you can do this without it, right? You can get in here. I have plenty of engineers that I work with and engineers that are friends of mine that are not, you don't need the college to do this stuff, but it does help to, I think, have somebody show you around and show you kind of how it works, right? So, all right, anyways, where were we at? So we've done those things. We've tested that. Let's look at a process. So look at the process. So let's say, do you see the same process for SSHD that you saw earlier? And then that's a question for you to think about. And then we'll say, look up the process by name, right? Look up a process by name. And in this case, then we'll say lsof-c and SSHD. And then that is going to give us the same type of thing. look up the process by name. So we're going to grab this right here. Boom. Steal that from ourselves. Look up the process by name, and it's going to be lsof-c and sshd, right? Do you see the same information that you saw earlier when you used the process ID? So it's process ID or PID, right? Is the way the system thinks of it. So do you see that one the same as when you did that? Okay. And that should be a question, so I need to put a question mark on the end of it. All right. Then the next one we might say is, let's use lsof to inspect what a terminal is doing, right? So lsof has the ability, this is a pretty powerful, it's listing of all open files, right? Listing of open files, and then we're going to use a command, or we're just going to look, let's do W real quick to see which terminals are open on my system. And in my case, hold on, I'll make that a little smaller so I can see it. W. We don't actually have any. Let's try this real quick. We'll SSH back into control plane, and then from there, let's try a W. So now we've got this terminal session right here, right? And we see it connected in. So we'll say SSH back into your own system, and then from here you're going to do an lsof on dev PTS 2. And this is all the things that your system's doing. So use lsof to inspect what the what a terminal's doing, and we'll say sh. So here, grab this. Sh to control plane, and then we're going to say to W, right? It'll just be the command W. What is the TTY terminal? And that's going to be like PTS 2, for example. Whoops. For example. And then for me, I'm going to paste that in again, and then I would say lsof dev PTS 2. Examine the terminal for open file systems, right? For open files. Yeah. Actually, technically, we could probably go over to like mount in here, and then if we did it, we should see that we're running bash and then lsof. So these are what is the terminal? What a terminal is doing. Inspect what processes a terminal is running, right? That's what the terminal's doing, right? That's the processes. And then actually you can dig in even further to these. So you could say lsof-p against this, right? Against the port, if you, or the process ID, and then now you could see that one is sitting over there in /mnt, right? It's sitting over in the /mnt directory, which is where we just moved. So you can use lsof to see a lot of what's kind of happening inside of a shell, even if you're not the user that's on the shell. But you have to be root user for this to work, obviously, right? I mean, you got to be root for anything to work, really, if you're looking at other people's stuff in a system, for sure. All right, so I'm looking at my notes down here, and let's see if there's anything else from my notes that I want to show. We could go against, so this is one that's kind of cool. We could go against what a user's doing. Let's try this one real quick. I'm looking at my little notes in my notebook over here because I wanted to make sure that I got all these right. Over here, so I say lsof-u root, and I can just see what the root user is doing in the system. And then, if I really wanted to, I could dig in a little bit against just, like if they're, I don't have VI running. Let's do something. Let's do this. Let's say sleep 60. Let's do sleep 600 with an ampersand on it, which will put it to the background immediately, right? And then we can lsof-root and then say AC sleep, and then see, do we just see sleep running by our system? So that's kind of good too. Hey Flask, how's it going? Anybody else that's kind of hanging out, you guys are welcome to hang. We're doing this is like simple stuff, and I'm not working super hard. You guys don't see me like working in the lab. You don't really have me sitting here talking to you guys like teaching like I sometimes do. Flask, no, I mean it's not a class. I'm just building a lab out. The lab will become part of classes later, sure. But no, we're not. I'm not doing what I would consider like a class right now. No, we're just hanging out. Hanging out. Ross raided a little while ago. Robodom, did we give a shout out to Ross? I might have missed it. I probably missed it. I saw he raided, but then I don't know if we gave him a shout out or not. I don't know if you mind doing that, Robodom. I know you're pretty good about that. Oh, you did? Okay, good. I appreciate it. Cause yeah, you guys know I can't manage my own stuff. I need help from the other guys. No, but I've followed Ross for years on here, just kind of hanging out. Cause I have this thing for people that don't know. I have this thing where I've never played the game Dead by Daylight, but for some reason that game amuses me so heavily. Like, I just love watching people get hung up on meat hooks. I don't know what it is. I don't know why I like that game. It probably has some time to do with my time in the infantry. I'm not sure, but it is amusing to me. All right, so let's do this, and let's verify that for this, we'll just say been true. Because at the end of this lab, there's not going to be anything really to validate as far as all that kind of stuff goes. Enzo Bear, you played during COVID. The Dead by Daylight looks like a super fun game. I've never even downloaded it. My game of choice is more like Brotato or Mechabellum or something like that. But there's that stuff. Yeah, the devs are always tweaking on that game, Enzo Bear, that's for sure. The Viscera cleanup detail. Yeah. Okay, so let's... we did that for file systems. So we say, okay, can you see what your terminal is executing? Okay, so we did that, and then we say, let's execute a sleep command for 10 minutes, and then validate that you can see your command running, right? So that's going to look like this. We're going to steal this from ourselves right here, and then we're going to drop it down here. Oops. Excuse me. And I'm going to say sleep 600 with an ampersand, and that will background the sleep command. Now run lsof to see your user sleep commands. All right, and then that's going to be here. And this is lsof-u root-ac sleep, and then I would say, what other do you see your sleep command? What other information do you find useful? Can you verify? Can you find out what the -ac does in that command? And that is here, and you would read the man page for lsof. What does the -ac mean? Right? All right, so that's probably that. I mean, that lab's pretty much done then. So now what we do is we do a quick walkthrough and we say, look at you, learning Linux, learning the lsof command in Linux. You used the command to troubleshoot a problem, and then look at what file system interactions are happening with processes. Right? So that's what we did. Control S. Boom. And okay, so now what we do, guys, is we test it, right? So we take all this, everything looks good. It says let's do Linux troubleshooting, lsof troubleshooting. Let's say lsof use and troubleshooting. That'll be good. Control S. And then I don't have anything wild to do there. Nothing wild to do there. Intro. Welcome to Prolog Linux troubleshooting. That's fine. We'll call it troubleshooting for now. And then our setup is not doing anything too crazy. All right. So come over here. We're going to say added new lab, and we're going to commit that up. So what will happen, this will sync up, and over here on Killer Coda, that's how you build those if you want to. How's Ranger doing? Ranger's doing good. It's 73 downstairs, guys. It's 83 in Phoenix right now. 73 downstairs. He's nice and cool, trust me. That dog stays chilling. All right, so we're going to see that my system just synced February 24th at 16, which is actually interesting. That should be... It's actually correct right now in my time. But here's the sync. That's in their time, yeah. So the get commits at my time. But then there, all right, so we'll go into Linux Labs. Let's make sure I didn't bust anything. That's important. All right. And it says right here, let's do Linux troubleshooting, lsof use and troubleshooting. All right, so I'm going to link this lab if any of you guys want to do it with me. You can do the lab right now. It's free. Doesn't cost anything. Yeah. Yeah, Rodom, we had a raid from Rossberger, so if that's what you're thinking. But yeah, we're going to go over here and we'll make this a little bigger so everybody can see. Make that bigger. Make this bigger. And what we're looking for, guys, in our labs when we troubleshoot them, we're looking for errors. So I say set up an NFS share for your lsof testing. Boom. Deploy the NFS server on node 01, share out a file system, and then here's our solution. So SSH node 01, install the kernel server. We don't do all the testing that we do in the other lab. We stripped all that out, so that's good. We're going to make sure that the server is running, but nothing is shared. I could have probably skipped this step, but this is good to see if you've never done it before. So let that run and let that go. Take a drink of water. These labs, guys, one of my favorite things about Killer Coda is it's free. If you had a question, if you were doing something while I'm doing it, the question will be directly related to what I can show you, which is in stark contrast to most of the time if you're trying to teach somebody Linux and they're like, well, I'm over in Arch, and I'm like, well, we're over here in Red Hat or CentOS or something else, and then everybody's just speaking different. I mean, the config files are all different, the way that things reboot. Are you using a network manager that's touching all these other files? There's just so many things that can happen that it's really nice to have like one environment like this. That's one of my favorite things about this is I could have 100 people in the same lab with me, and that's actually a really nice thing. So NFS is running, it's listening, right? It's listening, so it can take a connection from another server, but it's not actually sharing anything out. It's like it can share out like a notebook to you, but it's not sharing anything yet. So let's go make that share real quick. Give the permissions, the correct permissions, and then we go into Etsy exports and we're going to add this line. So Shift G O, in my case Control Shift V. It'll write that line, escape : WQ. I realize this is fast. Oh, hold on. I accidentally put my for money up there. It's one of my favorite lines ever. I can answer that for money. I love that line. All right, Etsy exports. In the other lab, we go into this a little more. This lab is just get through this so we can do the last part, right? That's what we're doing here. So we've got that right. Now we're going to restart the service, and now we see a share properly being shared out. So now we are sharing that notebook. If you want to think of it like that, it's a file system. But then we exit back to main control plane node, and we move forward. Okay, so now you set up an NFS server and share. Now we have to connect to it from control plane. So on control plane, we need to give it the tools to connect over to that other server, right? If you don't have the tools, if I told you to go hammer a bunch of boards together, and then I give you like this little Raspberry Pi here and this little Linux Penguin, I give you these two little guys, you'd be like, Scott, what the hell do you want me to do with those? You don't have the right tools, right? It's the same thing here. When you have the right tools, you can do things. If you don't have the right tools, you're just like, I guess we're not talking today. I guess our systems aren't going to work. Now we're just going to mount that. We're not going to do any wild stuff with the mount like we do in the other lab. We're going to make sure that it's mounted, and then we're going to touch a little test file. All right? Then we'll go forward, and the lab should validate and move forward. And now it says use lsof to examine the file systems on your Linux server. If something doesn't work, troubleshoot the situation to see if you can resolve it. All right, good, good. Come down here, lsof mount, and we see nothing, right? So use lsof to check the processes using a directory. Okay, well, hold on. I gotta go write something in the lab. If anybody's doing the lab, keep going. I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna fix something in step 3 right here and say, right, correctly, you should see no processes using the /t directory. There is no output, right? We don't have any output, nothing there. So, oh, we can check if it's NFS v4. Actually, we do that in the other lab too, but yeah, that's good. Okay, so I'm going to Control S, save this. So I'm fixing this on the fly. That's not really wrong. It's more correct to say that. And then I say now move to that directory, so we CD in there. Use the lsof to check. So use lsof to check the processes using a directory. So lsof mount, and now we see what is different now that you're in the directory. So now we see that something's using that directory. And I say check the process ID or PID of your shell. And does that PID match that? Yes. That'll be different every time you do this lab, by the way. Also, I got to go check. I got to go fix one thing. It said use lsof. The lsof is kind of like a weird sounding way to put that. All right. Now I say try to unmount the directory. So the command is umount, not unmount, but umount. So we try to umount the directory, and it said, did it work? Why or why not? What is the system saying? Well, the system's saying, hey, buddy, you're standing. It would be like if you tried to, like, make a bed and I was standing on the bed, or you tried to, like, take the sheet off a bed and I was standing on a bed. It's not going to go very well. Like, I'm standing there, guys. Like, you're not getting the sheet off while I'm on. Unless you're one of those guys that goes like that real fast, and then I'm just standing there amazed and everybody starts clapping. No, that probably wouldn't work. But anyways, that's what we're going to do, right? We're going to come over here, and I'm going to say there are 2 ways to unmount this directory now. We can force it with a lazy unmount, which is here, umount-l lazy. And I said, did this work? Now use pwd to see the directory you're in. And it says that I'm still in mount. Actually, umount-l pwd. And I said, what error do you see? Can you fix it? And then if you just cd in again, you should be able to pwd mount. If I do a df-h, okay, it's not mount anymore. Was that not interesting? So umount. That isn't what I expected. That's not what happened last time. But that's what I was telling you guys. There's weird behavior. If you unmount a directory while you're in it, it can throw weird errors. Last time we had an error there. This time it worked just fine. I wouldn't. This is why I say this is a very unreliable command. If you're using active processes or active users or touching things, maybe I got to add a value or something, or make an extended buffer for a set of users. There's all guys. I can't tell you all the things that can happen. I just try to show you guys the tools, because it's a lot like I use the example of the first movie Gladiator, or like I like to say Gladiator, because I'm never going to watch the second one. The only Gladiator. where he's standing there, and the the Carpathian horde, or the Battle of Carthage, where not Carpathian, but it's the Battle of Carthage, where the barbarian hordes are supposed to be crushed, right? And he says, whatever comes out of that door, as long as we stick together, we've got our best chances. It's the same idea here. When you know your tools, like if you know how your system works, that's your best chance at having, like if you understand how your tools work, that's where, like, no matter what happens, you get called out on a Saturday night, you're rubbing the sleep out of your eyes, you've never been on the server before, but it's on you to get the server back working again, because that's the kind of mantle that we bear a lot, and it's costing money when that server's down, so it's a lot of stress. It's not that much stress once you get used to it, but I'm saying when you first start, it's a lot of stress. Like, oh shit, I got to get the server up, and people are running around, people are yelling, why is the server not back up? And management's popping on the call. These kind of things happen, right? And you need to have the right tools, and you need to know how to use the tools. That's kind of something. Sometimes when I wrestle with a server for a long time, I feel like I've been in a gladiator arena. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, and I am a wrestler, so I actively wrestle. Actually, I was wrestling this morning with my white belts. I go to a gym not too far from me here, but it's they do veterans and first responders free in the morning. I still pay because I like to pay the gym, but I just get to go in and basically just beat up a bunch of white belts, because I've been doing it for over, actually, how long have I been? I've been doing jiu-jitsu 22 years now. So yeah, I just go in there and just kind of lay on people and beat them up and stuff, and then have a good time. But it's fun. It's a fun sport. It's a good time. So okay, what error do you see? Can you fix it? Well, there might not be an error. I might even say here. Let's go back to here. What error do you see? Hold on. So unmounted, and I say, what error do you see? Can you fix it? And I'm gonna say note. Note. If you do not see an error, this is because this is an unsafe action you're doing that is not recommended. I just had you do it to see the behavior, right? Like exposure to a lot of this stuff is what I think is very valuable, is the exposure and seeing how these things work. So I'm adding these as we go, and then we'll recompile it and we'll run it through again. I test my labs. Sometimes when you guys are watching me, I'll test my labs like 3 or 4 times. I know I'm insane, but I want the labs to be good for people, because I don't want people wasting their time, right? Like, you could waste your time anywhere, right? Like, but if you're hanging out with me and if you're doing Linux, we're going to at least be serious about the Linux for the most part. We'll mess around with other stuff for sure. But all right, so we'll come down here. We did all that. Did the error go away? And I say use lsof to examine what files a process is using. We'll look for SSHD because we know that's on, right? So as we know, it's running on the system. So I'm going to run this, and it's going to run, and I'm going to see port, or a process ID 757. And then if I wanted to, for fun, I could say echo $SSHD PID, and I should see 757 because that's the value that was right there. I knew it was going to be there, but I wanted to check. And then I say, check what files and handles for that process that SSHD has open. So if SSHD is running on your server, which it is sitting there as an open listener for people to connect, then I should be able to check that and see all of these things. So the next question then was, what type of FD values do you see? So that's this column right here. I see a CWD, an RTD, a text, a mem, a bunch of mem. Those look like files over there. And then I see these individual file handles down here, right? And these are against streams and listening TCP ports, right? So these things are what the system's actively doing, what this process 757 is actively doing on the system, right? So I say, what are the common names of files you see? It looks like a bunch of user lib x8664 stuff. Looks like it's doing a bunch of stuff. Now, I could try to dig in and see what all those things are, but maybe if I was seeing an error like, lib NSS files 2.31 not found, maybe I know that something's changed in the system, and maybe I need to go see on one server how to get that back. A lot of times as an admin, if you're doing admin work, you'll have a server that's busted, but you'll have 10 other servers that are working fine. So now you can compare between the two servers. You have these other things to check on. We don't always get that in the engineering world. Sometimes we do, but for the most part, maybe I have to rebuild. I have an image that I was securing on a system yesterday, and I secured the image so much that I can't even log into it anymore. Well, that's no good. So one of my troubleshooting steps is actually to back off and rebuild the image. Because while I was building the image, I was also building my process, and I was using this tool to, it's a STIG compliance hardening for RHEL 8. If nobody cares about that probably, but Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8, which is a little bit older version, and we were setting it to a certain security standard. And when I did that, I actually locked the box down too much. So I'm going to actually go back, and because I made so many changes, I'm going to start over at the base system, and I'm going to run through it all again with one clean run. So I just remove any of the problems from my iterations before I got to that point, if that kind of makes sense. Hey, how's it going, Axel? Roca Cruz, hopefully this stuff's useful to you over on the YouTube side of things. We're just doing a lab. I clicked the lab there for you guys. I put it in chat. And the next part of this is at the bottom, you see that it's listening on SSH. So I say, can you find the port number for SSH? And the answer to that is yes. There's a file called Etsy Services that keeps track of all this stuff for you. By the way, you can modify that if you want to break your system or change the way things behave. But SSH is port 22 by default, so good. And I say, what's the port number for SSH? Can we check lsof against that port on a system? And do we map to the same things that we saw earlier? And the answer is yes. So earlier we looked for a process based on the process ID of 757. Then we looked for it by going to the port number that we see as open. By the way, I could have found that open port number like this, NTULP, right? And I would have seen port 22 open right there by PID 757. So there's all these things. Hey, where are my teeth? How's it going? Hopefully this stuff's useful to you guys. But anyways, we're doing this, and I say, do you see the same process for SSHD that you saw earlier? Yeah, it's a 757 every time. We're not rebooting it. We're not restarting the system or the service. And I say, do you see the same process you saw earlier? Absolutely, we do. 757. And then I say, can you look it up by name? LSOF-C. That looks like the one we just did, where when we did it by the process ID, but this is now by name. There's our process ID, same exact output. I said, do you see the same information? And then I say, let's go ahead and SSH to ourselves and do a W, and we'll see that we're on PTS2. That's our terminal 2, right? Inside the system. It's physical terminal 2, technically. But can you see what terminal is executing? And now in here, we're going to do a... Did I not do... Hold on. Oh, here it is. Here it is. LSOF against that one. And then now we see that it's doing things. And if we were to echo $$ again, we would see 54223, 54223. There's our shell. There's our shell that we're in as that. Can you see which terminal is executing? Yeah, we see all the stuff executing. But that's how you would check the bash shell. Did we do that one earlier? Yeah, right here. There's how you see the process ID of your shell if you need it. So I guess I don't need to put it there again. Execute a sleep command. So go to sleep. Tell the system to sleep. And then we'll look in our system for sleep, and we'll see, yep, sleep is running. User bin sleep. And then we'll come over here and we'll read the man for LSOF. And then, man for LSOF, and we'll look forward / for -A. It's used for and. And then what is the -C? Oops, -C. Is listening for processes executing the command that begins with the characters of C. To do shell meta characters. Characters of C. Interesting. All right. Says that it's for searching, and then we're looking for sleep. So there we go. All right. And then it finds the other things that are also accessing it. So that's interesting, right? We can man lsof. I should put dash Q to exit. Hold on, at the bottom of that. Hit dash Q. So you can use Q to exit there. All right. I want to say that lab is pretty good then. Then we hit check, and then we're good. Okay, look at you learning the lsof command in Linux. You use the command to troubleshoot a problem, and then look at what file system interactions are happening with processes. I think that's pretty good. All right, so we're going to back out, and we are going to say we've saved everything, so now we're going to say updated lab, and then we'll just push that up. And like I told you guys, I'm a little bit crazy, so I like to watch this go, and then I'm going to go in and do it again. So we're going to see the git commit pull. So it was 1626, now it's going to be 1646. Yep, there it is. We can also hit that to automatically sync, but that has a handle, or not a handle, a web hook. This has a hook to GitHub, and it'll pull it down anytime there's a change. So there's an alert there that happens. So now we're up to 28 scenarios. Go down here to the end. If anybody needs that because they want to troubleshoot it with me, here you go. I'll link it again for people that missed it. So there it is on the YouTube side, and there it is on the Twitch side. So I'm gonna do the same lab again, guys, because again, I like to kind of make sure that they're correct, right? I like to make sure that if I'm putting my name on it and stamping it to try to help you guys out, that it's at least accurate. I want it at least to be completable, right? So set up an NFS share for your lsof testing. Okay. Now, this lab is it assumes that you've went through, it doesn't assume, but if you've done the other labs and gotten through the NFS one, you'll see that this is like a stripped down version of it. So SSH to node 01, install the NFS server over on that other node, because he's going to be our NFS server. Put NFS server over there. We're going to make sure that it's running. It should be running. It will not be, so it'll be running, it'll be listening, but it will not be sharing anything. So, here we go. It's running. Yep, it's active. It's got a process ID on it. It's listening. Yep, boom. But it is not actually exporting anything. So then we make that share. We assign it the proper permissions so that people can come in and write to nobody. And then we're going to copy that, hit Shift-G, whoops. Shift-G, O, Control-Shift-V in this case. You don't want that A right there. Whoops. There you go. Escape :WQ to save it. And then we're going to restart the service and see that it is now exporting share. So good. We hit exit, go back to control plane, and we move on. Set up NFS and a share. Now we have to connect to it from control plane. So control plane needs the client to be able to connect. So we're going to install the client. We're going to do just a quick and dirty mount. We're not making it a persistent mount like we do in other labs. With Ansible, we make it a persistent mount in one of the Ansible labs. In this lab, we're just going to mount it. We're just, whatever, just mount it, right? So we'll do that real quick. Yeah. Here, mount. df-h, see that it's mounted from a remote file system. And then touch a file just to make sure that we have it, and then we'll move forward. And it says now, use lsof to examine the file systems on your Linux server. If something doesn't work, troubleshoot the situation to see if you can resolve it. So we'll do an lsof mount. It says you should see no processes using the mount directory. There's no output. Yeah, there's nothing there. And it says move to the mount directory, so CD in there, and then use lsof to check the processes. And now you'll see that there are processes in there that are using that directory. And if you echo your $, you'll see 39749, 39749. So that happens to be the process ID of my system. I mean, we knew it was going to work like that, but now we can validate it. This is one of these things where I tell you guys, you can guess how tools work, or you can go do them and see what they do. There's an old saying in engineering, one test is worth 1,000 expert opinions. We want to understand, right? We want to grok our tools so that when we need them, they don't fail us. I couldn't imagine being like a rock climber and going and like dropping those carabiners, but never quite understanding how when you squeeze a carabiner, it goes like this and then it opens back up. And I just never got that part down. So then when I go and I do rock climbing, I just, I can't trust my tools because half the time it slips or something. That would be absolutely one of the most terrifying things I could think of, right? Like I don't know how to use any of my tools, so why am I falling off of rock faces all the time? That seems really stupid, right? I would want to know how my tools work, right? Same thing with if you guys ever see like somebody go do dive stuff. You can't dive until you've practiced with that equipment and understand kind of how it works and how to clear your mask and all that stuff. Let's say, what if we wanted to unmount this now? So we U-mount it and that doesn't work. The device is busy. So we say, did that work or not? Well, if I do a df-h again, it did not work. It is still mounted. This thing did not U-mount. So then I say, well, let's do a U-mount-L, which is lazy, and then do a PWD, and we're still in that directory. But maybe if I do a df-h dot, and then it says no file system process because I'm not in one. Oh, you know what? That's actually what I think I wanted to do right here. Hold on. I use PWC. No. Hold on. I think this is a better way to do this. Hold on. Let's go back over here. Let's go look at this again. Down here. Now try to use PWC. Now use df-h to see information about the directory you're in. What error do you see? Can you fix it? Note if you do not see an error, this because yeah. Okay, so we'll do a df-h there. Oh, hold on. Let's Control S this, and we'll go ahead and we won't push it just yet. We'll push it at the end. All right, so we got that part fixed. We'll CD to mount again, and then we do our PWD and it works, or df-h dot and that works. Let's fix that part too. Control S. All right. So when we come down here, did the error go away? And then it says to use lsof to examine what files the process is using. We'll look for SHD as we know it's running. So we look for it, it's running. We see that it's there, and then we can run lsof against the process ID for it, which is 757. 757, good. All right. What type of FD and values do you see? All that stuff's there. We'll grep for the services. We'll lsof against just that service, good. We'll look for it by name. We'll get all the right values. We'll SSH to control plane and look for that device, which is PTS2, which is the one that we're using. And we'll see all that terminal information. We'll sleep. We'll check that and see that we're sleeping. That sleep will be there for 10 minutes. And then we'll read the man for it. And then we'll go look for -A. Right. Causes a list of options to be ANDed. And then -C. And it says selects the listing of files for processes executing the command that begins with characters of C. Multiple commands may be specified using multiple -C options. So it looks for everything that's doing sleep. Okay, fair enough. Because we did that. So it's C sleep. All right, fair enough. All right, so then we check, and it says, look at you learning Linux. Good job. All right, let's come back over here, and we say update lab again, fix lab. Commit. Sync it up. And then I got to go do it again. So I got to make sure it's flowing right. Yeah, I know, guys. It's tedium, but this is engineering, right? This is making sure that we're doing stuff that works well. Also, it kind of bugs me that that's capitalized, because it needs to really not be capitalized here in the index. Intro setup. I do that in structure. No? Where did I set that? feel like that got capitalized without me doing it. I don't think I did that. I think that's getting capitalized for me right there. That's fine. All right, that's fine. We won't worry about it if it's going to be part of the system. All right. Once more again, but just a little bit louder, a little bit worse. Go to node 01, install the the NFS server for Ubuntu. Yeah, it can be. On the YouTube side said it's good to remember the commands. I'm a big fan of, if you guys are doing this for the first time, typing it out. Now, you can just click the button, it'll send it over. I do think there's some value for people that want to really learn this, to like the muscle memory of this. Like, what is this command giving me? What is this individual command giving me? I kind of blew through them here because it's quick for the environment, but I wanted to for the other lab, it goes through it a little more. So Shift G, O, grab this, Control Shift V, escape : WQ, and then we'll restart the service. And now rereading that file will have mounted this, or it will show mount, and it is now exposed out to whoever wants to connect on 2049. And I'm allowing anybody to connect, but you could limit that down as well if you wanted to. So then we exit control, and then we go back to control plane. So now we're going to set up an NFS server and do these things. I need to remove that because that's not happening anymore. So this is in step 2, text right at the top. Yeah, we're not worried about the etcfs tab for this. That's in the other lab. So we'll save that. And on the main node, we'll install the NFS common client. Yeah, Chris, and I try not to be prescriptive. Some people like to just see it kind of happen, but I'm a big fan. That stupid thing keeps popping up. I'm a big fan of you guys seeing seeing it and watching what happens. That's better than just never having been in a command line, especially for people that are going to go. We have people that are constantly going out and interviewing for jobs and stuff. And there's a lot of talk about that down on our Discord, like a lot of people talking about what their interview experience looks like and that kind of stuff, what they've seen. I now see that I'm mounted over there, and I'm going to just touch that file just so that it's there. So now we're going to play with lsof. We're going to do lsof on mount. We won't see anything. We'll CD into mount. We'll do an lsof on mount now, and now we see that our file system is being used by our bash shell. So there we go. All right, we're going to try to unmount it, and that's going to break. Then we're going to unmount it lazily, and oh, that's weird. It's still back on the PWD. I thought I fixed that. Maybe it had not synced all the way yet. And then we'll CD and PWD again. Then we'll do this part. We'll do that part. That. So all the commands work, right? All this stuff works all the way down. That's still on PTS2, which is the default first one. And then there we go. Okay, so that all worked all the way down. Why did that not take over here? So step 3, we had all that. Text, markdown, updated. These commits are just for me anyways, the notes. So it's not really that big a deal, for it to be some exact thing. But let me go look. I need to make sure that I did change. That's right, and that's right. Okay, so maybe it hadn't registered it by the time we got there. So we're gonna go back out here. We'll go watch it, make sure that it's synced to right now. So that's right now. Give it a second to build, because it does take a few seconds to build sometimes, maybe even up to a few minutes. And we're gonna verify that the lab's working. I'll link the lab one more time when we go down in there, and then we'll kind of run through it again for real to see if anybody, and if you want to do a lab, you guys can. If not, it's fun to watch it. Some of you have seen it 4 or 5 times now, right? But for me, this is how I do things like this so that we get most of the errors out. Also, one of the other things I do, let's test it one more time. That bugs me that keeps capitalizing it, but that's fine, whatever. That's not capitalized in our system. It's the way that it's getting pulled up. It's capitalizing that. So, oh well. All right. I'm gonna link this to you guys that want to do it with me. And over there for you guys. And let's try it again. While we're waiting, let's check on Ranger. Ranger's not on his bed. Where's Ranger at? Ranger's on the move, guys. My dog's moving. Where's he at? I don't know. I hear him wandering around down there. He's definitely, he comes in and out. He's got a really big doggy door, so he comes in and out. But he mostly just stays downstairs. So I don't know. We'll see how he does here. All right, I do have more notes to build more labs, but what's this next one? Oh yeah. It's actually interesting that I have in my notes right here that I'm looking through. I swear I'm missing something. I don't see it. But anyways, check this other one. I think my wife's been messing around in my office here. But I think. Or I'm losing my mind. It's one of those two. It's definitely possible that I lost my mind, but because my notes are missing a whole bunch of. I had a whole bunch of bookmarks, a whole bunch of them in there, and I only have one in each of the different books that I was using. So the old books that I have from like 20 plus years ago. All right. Set up an NSFS share for your LSOF testing. These things, verify that it's being shared out. Okay, this is all gonna work, we hope. Same basic thing, install your server, make sure it's running, won't be doing anything yet, make it do the things you want it to do, and then leave the server. So, again, kind of a shortened version of the other lab. Give it a second. He's building the commission. Yeah, Ranger is in charge. Where is he? That dog is. We saw him on the move earlier. He is. Hold on. We'll move him. We'll move this over. This is very important now. To know where Ranger is. Put Ranger over here. We'll move the lab. It's now very important that we know what's going on with Ranger. All right. Make sure that the server's doing what it's supposed to do. Good. Set it up. Copy that. Shift G. Shift G. O. Control Shift V. Nope. I was actually quite worried about that. Control. There we go. Escape : WQ. And then we'll restart the service and we'll see that it's sharing out the way that it should. Boom. All that stuff's good. Exit. Come back to our main server. We're going through the lab again. Now, that's cleaned up, so it removed that other part where we made it persistent. We don't worry about making things persistent right now because that's not the goal of the lab. The goal was just to be able to use lsof a little bit. So we're going to set up the client and connect from control plane. So there's our client on this box. We'll mount it. Verify that it's on our system. And we're mounted over there. Maybe we're going to see Ranger pop up. He's got to be on the move somewhere. It's too hot outside to sit outside, I would think. All right, boom. There we go. Check. Use lsof to examine the file system of the Linux server. If something doesn't work, troubleshoot the situation. Okay. lsof mount. CD in there. lsof again to see this happen. Good. Verify that that is us, 30327. That's going to be different every time you guys run this. That'll never be the same. All right. Try to unmount it. Won't work. Try to use the umount-L, and it will. And then we use the df-h, and it's going to give us an error, right? Then we CD back in there and run it again, and now it takes the error away. So you may or may not see this error still even with this, right? Did it unmount properly? Is it really gone? That kind of stuff. I didn't make you guys do this, but you could mount grep-I for MNT and then see that it's really gone. When it was mounted, if I just pressed up a few times, I didn't make you guys do this, but in the other lab you do. When you mount that and then you do that mount command, you'll find that it's mounted via all of these values. So it's NFS version 4 and all of this stuff about how it's connected to that other stuff. Really helpful tip, the exit sequence for VI. I rarely end up in VI. I have to look that up. Yeah, you know what, Smur, what I do in the lab on that is I just say, edit this. I don't have the VI in there because some people might want to use nano or something like that. So that's why I just left that. You're probably right, though. Like, I probably should have. It's one of these things where I struggle because there's, right here. I agree with what you're saying. But I struggle because it's like I said, add the line into that file, to the file etc exports to share out the directory. But I don't go into how to get there. So that is one of the things that's kind of a problem. And I've told you guys this before, and some of you probably think I'm joking, but I'm not. If I put a group of 30 students into VI, that is what I'm going to be doing for the next hour, is getting people out of VI. And you go, surely, Scott, surely you could just do a 5-minute thing at the front of a college classroom and your college students can get to the VI section and exit. Nope. I'm 100% positive from 5,000 plus, there's Ranger, from 5,000 plus students now over my years of teaching college, that is what I will be doing for the next hour, is getting people out of VI. People won't say anything, and then I'll find out later they just couldn't get out of VI, and I'm like, ugh. But the ones that will say something, I will be doing VI for the rest of the time. So anyways, that's one of the reasons I kind of, I don't explicitly say there which one to use. In one of our earlier labs, I mentioned, though, like a Vim tutor, because I do think that I think that you just have to understand the basics kind of. All right, so we see that. Move to the directory, check it. There's our thing. Look, Ranger's over there standing by the sun. He's absorbing sun from the west. All right. We'll try to unmount it. Can't. Unmount it with a lazy. And then nothing file processed. And then boom. And then did the error go away? Did the file system go? Boom. Check it. There's it running. Grep for Etsy services. We're going a little fast because it's like our 5th time through it. That's good. lsof-c. That's good. Go SSH into the server again. And now you're on PTS2. So look at PTS2. What is it doing? Good. Tell the system to sleep in the background for 600 seconds. And then look up the sleep command and what's touching the sleep command in your system. Problem is, did you make an edit before you try to quit out of Vim? Yeah, for sure. VI and Vim will definitely mess people up when they're first using it. All right, so hit Q to exit and then check. And look at you learning Linux, or learning the lsof commands and Linux. You use the command to troubleshoot. Use the command to troubleshoot a problem, and then look at what file system interactions are happening with processes. So there's all kinds of things there, right? All kinds of good stuff going. Hey, thank you for the follow, Hexer. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. Also, I missed like 1 million follows earlier, but hopefully this stuff's useful to you guys. Not 1 million follows, but a few, maybe 10 or something, 10 or 15. But yeah, you guys are welcome to hang out. This is what we do around here. We just kind of hang out and do Linux. I was building a new lab. Now, this is the other thing I do. I grab the lab here and I drop it down in our Discord, typically under our like Prolog lab environment. I think this is where I normally drop it. And then I say, and then I'll typically say, let's see, is it right here? And I'll say like new lab up for testing. Oh gosh, so many things in Discord. Is it normally? Oh, it's Killer Code Labs right here. And then I'll just say right here, new lab up for testing. Right here. And then the guys that want to test that maybe aren't around right now, right? Because again, we got 3,600 people in there. I'd say we probably have about 400 or 500 that are pretty active, like because I can see the stats on Discord of people that are doing stuff and coming in. Not I don't see everything people are doing on Discord, but I can see that people are still around, and we probably have a few hundred people that are pretty active, at least checking stuff. So new lab up, people can then tell me if there's anything going on with it. Discord's free. You guys are welcome to hang out in there. Hexer, how's it going? I'm kind of thinking about if I want to start building more of these labs out, or if I want to. Oh, I do have like work stuff I have to do. Not work, but like stuff I have to do for the professional Linux users group, where I'm putting together a security course for probably a run through. I don't know when we're going to start that. Maybe we'll start that in March as we do the other one. And part of that, by the way, is I want the people that haven't done Linux systems administration to focus on that, and the people that have finished that, which is only like 8 or 9 people, I think. I want those people to be able to come over and say, okay, I want to focus on security now, right? But like you have to have the basics, I think, before you go do security. Although I'm not going to limit. I'm not going to tell you can't do security first if you want to. I'm just going to say I'm not going to do anything slow. Like we're going to assume that you understand Linux with at least like a few months worth of what we did in Linux Systems Admin. Because that Linux Systems Admin course was probably, if I had to guess, over 130, 140 hours worth of work for everybody. It was 16 weeks, and it was probably about 8 to 10 hours a week. So maybe even up around 100, 160 hours worth of work for some people. And that's one of the reasons that only so many people finished it. What's Ranger doing? He looks confused. He looks, he's so old, guys. You guys, like, he's just wandering around all slow, licking his bed, which is weird because he doesn't even have any, like, he doesn't eat food there, really. He eats food over on the little rug there most of the time. I mean, he doesn't eat in that part of the house, but I'm saying, like, if we give him a treat, he'll take it over there. But he's always sniffing the door like that. I think he's got dementia. I'm not saying that to be, like joking. I really do think he kind of has some kind of dementia going on. But, what can you do? He's my guard dog. Hazy said you put a lot of hours into Cloud Boot Camp. Nice. Robdom, he still eats. Yeah, he has hard food twice a day, and then I give him treat. He knows. So in the morning when I get back from wrestling, which is about 6:15 a.m. is when I'm getting home, he knows that if he can catch me in the laundry area, which is where his food dishes and stuff, if he can catch me in there when I'm like dropping my gi in and like taking off my under, like I wear a compression shirt, when I take those off, if he can catch me in there, he gets a treat. So and when he was younger, he did it all the time, but now sometimes I'll hear him like getting up all slow and coming down, and if he catches me in the hallway, I still give it to him, right? But also when he was younger, when I would fill up water, I'd go downstairs and I'd fill up water at the fridge. He knew he could come over and get pets. But now, as he's getting older, he doesn't do that anymore. Yeah, I just think he likes to hang out. He likes to. He's a pretty good dog, but he doesn't do tricks. He doesn't do any of that stuff anymore. He doesn't run for his ball anymore like he used to. But all in all, he's a good dog. He just has to hang out downstairs. So, yeah, Robdom. He's got an appetite though. Like he's getting skinnier though, like as he gets older. But I mean, what can you do? We give him probably chicken. Every time the wife preps chicken, like she'll do like chicken meal prep on Sunday nights, she always takes out all the fatty pieces and gives it to him, and he thinks he's eating like a king, but it's really just the stuff that she doesn't want on the chicken. But she always does it after the chicken's cooked, not before, because it's frozen chicken, instant pot, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever. So, all right, so we got that lab done. That's pretty good. I have to count our labs up again now because I think we're up to like 61 or something of all the labs. So, actually, I think it'll tell us. Hold on, let's go look. Let's do some quick math. So, we got 14 plus that. What is that? 35. So 35 plus 28. We're getting up there, guys. Yeah. We're getting up there. That's more than we've ever had. Yeah. Ranger's getting scammed. Yeah, Ranger's definitely like wandering around a lot for the afternoon. Normally he sleeps all afternoon, most of the night, and then he's really active in the early morning. Like he'll go out back, he'll walk around, I'll hear him. Because he's up before I get up in the morning. I get up at about 4:20, and then he's up. And like I'll be coming down to get my stuff and go, and he'll be already like wandering outside, or I'll catch him outside. In the back, I'll go see him, and then I'll go to leave. But no, he's typically up and about when I'm getting home too, so that's pretty early. No, Exxon, this lab was just in general. This is just a general Linux lab. I've been meaning to. I was telling you guys, I wanted to get at least one out per month, and I didn't start one in January. So I started this is Linux troubleshooting now. So we'll just start adding more and more of them. Just using different commands, troubleshooting systems, and figuring out how they work and stuff. So I think that'll give you some more exposure to the command if you've never used it. I think the next one I'll probably do will be strace, and I've been meaning to do strace for you guys to show you how to attach to a process and see what it's doing. And maybe we'll do strace and ltrace, because they do two different things. Strace looks at system calls, ltrace looks at dynamic libraries, right? So you can see that kind of stuff. There's that. Can be. I did an SC Linux lab with you guys I did it in the home lab though. So for people that did the systems admin course, I actually did have a thing. I don't have it up here on Killer Coda because these systems are Ubuntu systems. But in the home lab, I set it all up. And then on the Rocky boxes, you guys could do all the things you needed to. So this is the home lab diagram for people that have never been around or seen our home lab type diagram. Chris Jackson, you want to know how to make one of these? Like this? Something like this? Like that? You want to like make a banner like that? I can show you that real quick. That's what you're talking, right, Chris? On YouTube side of things? You want to know how to make a little custom banner like that? Real quick, this is just a file populated message of the day, right? That's the message of the day file. So if you need to push this to a bunch of servers, first let's make the custom banner. Let's go grab what we need. I'll show you that. And then, yeah, Ubuntu's App Armor. There's a guy who wrote a nice little cool tool. And I'm going to show you guys the cool tool because I think it's a good tool. And it's ASCII. So I'll link this to you guys right here for Chris. And then for you guys over there on Twitch. And then what you could do is you could say, like, let's just say Chris servers, right? Maybe your Chris servers. And then you go right here and you just hit test all, and it'll generate all of those. Some are going to be too big and they won't make sense for you. Some of them are going to look like this Chris servers. But just go down and grab the ones you like. Like, oh, that one's pretty nice. Go grab it. Go through it. And make sure you get the whole thing, because some of them have characters that are actually upper. And then go grab them and throw them like in your notepad or whatever, right? That's a stig right there. And then, here's Chris servers, this one. I like that one. I come down. Oh, I kind of like that one. I don't really like this one that much, but I can grab this and then throw that one in there. Oh, that one got a little jacked up, so maybe I got to pull that back. Maybe it's not fitting on the screen right. Oh, yeah. I don't know why that one's not fitting, but whatever's wrong with that one, it's probably just how I copied it wrong. But anyways, the point is you could go do all that, right? Get the things you want, maybe even like that one, right? Whatever. So you get those, and then what you do is you can push them to all your servers in that etc motd file, or we have a lab on this. I actually have a lab that does this. I'll give you the lab if you want it. Oh, is there one called Figlet? I've never seen Figlet. That sounds actually pretty cool. But in Ansible labs, I have a lab that does pushing message of the day to all your servers. And this one, there's some more advanced stuff in here, guys. But for people that wanted to push message of the days to their servers, and then if you had different types of servers, so you wanted to split out how they worked, this is a way to do it. So we've got environment prod and environment dev, and then if we go look at the server, here's what the push looks like. And if you're a prod server, you're going to get the prod one, and if you're a dev server, you're going to get the dev one. And if I cat root dev motd, there's my dev. And if I go get my prod one, there's my prod one. Oh, it doesn't look very good on there. Hold on. Right? And then now to push those, if you were a prod server, you would get the prod one. And if you were a dev server, you would get the dev one. Right? And then you could push that. If you need that, anyways, that's the link. Take anything you want, go drop it in your servers, make it work. But this would work. Again, I only have 2 servers here, but if you had 10,000 servers, this would still work. You would just have to populate the environment variables. And with Ansible, you could do that a bunch of different ways. You could explicitly do it like this. You could do it against different inventories. There's inventory vars. You could do all kinds of crap. Anyway, so if I push this to all my servers, it would run it. It would push to each individual server. You'll see it skip the one it shouldn't. So it'll push to the one it should, skip the one it shouldn't. And then now if I go check the other node, there's that. And if I SSH to node 01, there's that. If I SSH back to control plane, we'd see prod. So there you go. So that was the question. The question was if I wanted to make some kind of banners for my servers, how would I do it? And that's how I would do it. I would go grab those and find one that you like for your servers, and then you can do that. Yeah. So non-major, could you be lazy and all? Yeah, you could be lazy and not specify anything and just push all your servers one environment. Yeah. This one of the cool things about Ansible, if you guys have never played with Ansible, is this. You can make almost, well, I mean, there's a memory limit, of course, but you can just set a bunch of variables. And then if you never call or use the variable, Ansible's kind of running around with like a backpack on that has all the variables in it, and it can load variables like 22 different ways from files, and there's all kinds of ways to get Ansible files. There's environment files. They can be generated and then set. They can be dynamically set, or they can be statically set like this, right? There's all kinds of ways to get variables into Ansible that it knows about the server. But if you never make it go pull out and check that variable, it doesn't care. It's just basically sitting there in memory, if that makes sense. Got a bug in my Ansible playbook. It installs Nginx on different flavors of Linux. It fails on SUSE, and I don't have a clue why. Well, when you run it, do this. When you run it, obviously it's failing on some server. Do this right here. A whole bunch of V's. 3 V's is the highest verbosity. Maybe you can go higher, but I just use 3. And now I can see everything happen. Hey, so I could see, did it deploy? Did it do whatever? Also, for any value, this is a thing that as you play with Ansible more, this will become more intuitive for you guys as you play with it. Where the hell's it at? This one. Oh, what the fuck is wrong with it? Like, what the hell's going on with my brain? Anyways, here we go. What I was going to show you is anything that happens, like this copy, you can always register the variable. So this could be prod copy, right? And then YYP, P, and then this could be dev copy, right? And then down here, I could say, well, when we're done with this playbook, let's just say debug the copies, right? And then I can say debug like this, and I can say var, and the var is going to be item, right? And then down here I can say loop, and then I can give the 2 items, which is prod copy and dev copy. So it's going to pull those values in each time as it's going. Escape : WQ. And then we just run our, we'll bang Ansible. And it'll run the most recent playbook. And when we get to the end, it's going to debug all the things that happened in that push right here. Right? So this is all the stuff that happened, which would give you more information. Weight Walker said, what am I doing? Oh, I'm just hanging out and working on, somebody asked me a question about pushing like cool banners like this to your servers if you wanted. And I was just showing how to do it. It's, I don't want to say it's a trivial thing, but it's a thing that you could do, you know, with a little bit of work and get your servers kind of looking nice. If you know, you're presenting servers to a customer or something, you want to make it like explicit about which server is which or something like that. That's a kind of nice way to do it if you wanted to. So, I mean, obviously you have the name of the servers here, but this is all overridable right here, right? You guys know this is echo $PS echo $PS1, right? This is just the PS1 variable. This can be overridden by the user, or the user can change that. I can make my PS1 equal to, you know, it could be this, right? It doesn't. People think that things like you have control in Linux in a way that you don't have in other operating systems. You can do whatever you want inside of your bash shell, right? And you can make that sit like that if you wanted, but that doesn't make as much sense. So maybe you exit out and then you go back in and it clears because you didn't set it persistent in your environment files, right? That kind of stuff. But anyways, this is like debugging things and looking at kind of what's going on in your environment. So yeah, so that's kind of that. Let me where are we at here? Yeah, Terraform is pretty good too. Some of you guys know I used to use Terraform pretty heavily, and I got my associate in it, but then I didn't. My company didn't go that way as much, so I didn't end up using that as much. And then I mostly just use Ansible on pretty much everything. I don't do as much cloud stuff as I'd like. I went and got a bunch of cloud certs, and then I mostly just work on high-performance compute stuff now. So everybody wants to get more into cloud, even on the HPC side, but not everybody's doing a lot of effort to get there. So like bursting up into the cloud and that kind of stuff. Everybody wants that because everybody wants the ability, like if the system goes down, we can still burst up and run these jobs in a in an effective manner, but also in a cost-effective manner. We don't just want to. I mean, it wouldn't be good if like our servers went down and then we spent $1 million in 2 days processing whatever jobs we need or whatever. So there's that. Yeah, Hayes. I think there's a section for DevOps down in the Discord. People talk about Terraform. I wouldn't say super regularly, but we used to talk about it more. I used to use Terraform to deploy everything in the server because back before I had all my home lab stuff set up for everybody, I used to deploy everything up in AWS, and I used Terraform to do it. So some of you guys have seen me do that. It's been a while, probably been about 2 years since I've done that, because we do all of our stuff inside of Killer Coda now. So all of our labs are Killer Coda based now. So all right, so that's that. Let's go find. We'll probably go. Docker kind of replaces all that, but that's a whole other can of worms. Yeah, Docker does a lot of stuff, and then there's limitations, right? In fact, there's a whole thing called KubeVirt where it's Kubernetes still, but instead of Kubernetes with containers, it's Kubernetes with virtual machines, because in their mind and in their methodology, some workloads can't go all the way down to Docker. Some workloads still work best with a full system. And all that stuff we do in Killer Coda where you get that shell, that's actually all based inside of KubeVirt, in case you guys were wondering if you've never played with that. Yeah, Killer Coda is all KubeVirt under the hood, which is kind of an interesting, and it's KubeVirt. There you go. So, all right. Let's go find somebody to raid. We got a good number of people. Let's go find somebody to raid today. I appreciate you guys coming by. On the YouTube side, unfortunately, we don't get to do anything cool over there with raiding. We just end up stopping. But let's go find somebody I'm following. Let's go raid over to... Who's on right now? I don't really see anybody on. Let's see if anybody is in the same category of us doing stuff. Oh shoot, am I still in just chatting on the Oh well, there we go, I guess. All right, I guess we won't worry about Oh shoot, let me go find somebody to raid. We'll go raid over to Tiberius. We'll go raid over there. All right, guys, our raid message is do all the Linux. I appreciate you guys coming, and I will see some of you guys later this week. Take care.